The content presented is for entertainment purposes only. Some content may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Now, over the past 100 years, technology has really grown. It has expanded. It has evolved, especially over the past 30 or 40 years. And things have been very incredibly beneficial, I think, to humanity overall. Also, I believe that there are some technologies that are actually hindering our progression as human beings, and even turning us into mindless zombies. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section down below. So how technology helps and hurts humanity. This is the topic for today. First thing I want to do is I want to show you a little short that's been going around. And this is kind of going to kick into our first topic. So let me go ahead and switch over for those that are viewing it from our video. I'm just going to go ahead and play it for you guys.
Any future Tesla. What it won't work with, however, is any woman.
I asked you guys to get me to 1 million likes, and you well surpassed that to over 4.5 million.
That was a funny joke.
Now, I never expected to have to make this video, and it took a very long time because my car was away at service for a couple of weeks, and I had to find somebody who would actually want to implant a key into my hand. And this is about as much as I can show you without getting banned for showing anything too disturbing, but yes, I actually went and did it, and I'm going to show you how I unlock my car. So I can now basically walk up to my car, put my hand on this camera right here, and the car will unlock for me.
Any future Tesla. What it won't.
We're in the future, everybody. It's the Jetsons. It's the Jetsons. Anyways, I thought that was very interesting. This is going to kind of kick off our first topic, like I was saying. Where did I put my outline? Did I accidentally close it? No, I didn't. I just minimized it. There it is. So this Tesla owner will never lose his keys again. So he actually, it's basically an RF chip, or a radio frequency chip, basically, that allows the car to sense, kind of similar to when you tap your chip with your debit card, or whether you tap your phone on something to pay for something, or to share a video or a link or whatever with another person close by. It's kind of very similar to that. And it's just a chip that is being implanted under the skin, which is very, very interesting. So after he spent $400 to have them permanently implant this into his hand, Tesla owner Brandon Delali shared a video on social media this week showing him having a chip implanted in his right hand and then using the device to unlock his vehicle. Now, I use that as my key when my Bluetooth key fails or I don't have my key card. You just use your hand. Delali said that he is part of a beta group of about 100 people who are testing the chips before they are released to the public. The first one was a little smaller, so it wasn't as intense as shoving that giant rod into my hand. The first one came preloaded with a larger syringe. They pushed the syringe in and they popped in the chip similar to how they would a microchip a dog. We're at the dawn of this technology and it's a very niche product, he says. And there's been a lot of pushback. People thought that Bill Gates was pushing tracking chips in the COVID vaccine. It fuels a lot of conspiracy theories. There's the religious group who have sent me a bunch of weird comments on Facebook about the mark of the beast on the video of my first chip installation. There's something in the book of Revelation that talks about this mark in your hand or forehead that shows your allegiance to Satan or something like that. I just don't want to have to worry about forgetting my car keys. I'm not here to worship Satan. I just thought this is like a very interesting time in our lives now where not only is the guy from Tesla. Wow, why am I blanking on his name right now? I should know this. Elon Musk. Wow, I can't believe Wasn't able to pull that out of my behind. So not only is Elon Musk, working on Tesla and SpaceX, as well, he is also working on some technology that you can implant different electrodes inside near parts of the brain that allow people who are disabled, people who are unable to speak or move. They're quadriplegics. They are unable to move anything. Everything from neck up, and that's it. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this technology is going to change our lives. How this technology, if we begin to start to become integrated with these devices, and how this is going to change things. Now, this is pretty tame compared to what can happen, and especially when it comes to thinking about sports and how we really like it when people are able to break records, able to hit the ball farther, throw it faster, run faster, without exhaustion. I think it's kind of funny because we always champion and we get really excited and we applaud people who are able to break these things, these records, and to do better than the previous person, or run the most yards, or have the most intercepts, or whatever the case may be. And what's funny is that a lot of times, like, some of these individuals are like being found that they have different substances that are putting in their body, whether it's TRT, or whether it's just straight testosterone, or whether it's synthetic or natural, or whether it's steroids. Like, a lot of these people are pumping stuff into their bodies, especially they're having issues with that in MMA. Where people are able to train on it and then get off of it in time for drug testing. I mean, it's just kind of silly. It's like, at some point, maybe there should just be a division where people can just put whatever they want into their bodies and just do crazy stuff that seems inhuman at this point. Because it's your body, your choice, right? So there seems to be an unsaid wink and a nod where people are sacrificing their anonymity, I probably said that wrong, for the sake of progressing technology. Example, so smartphones recording to data servers that store everything that is said, places they have visited, websites they are going to, things they have purchased or sent back, and then they use that data, this metadata, and they're able to sell to different companies to try to push more products on you, to get you to buy and consume more things. That's something that I really feel like technology is kind of going into a bad direction. As well as, if you put too much technology into your body, like how's that going to look like, after, 5, 10, 20 years? Because doesn't like every cell in your body get redone? Like every 7 years, like every cell in your body has been replaced. So does just like when you get a thorn in your finger, like eventually your body is either it's going to get infected and you're going to have to pull it out, or it's going to eventually push itself out. So what's going to happen to these people once they get to the point when your body starts either rejecting, these foreign metals and plastics in your body, which we know by Dr. Don that plastics are not good for your body. They're not good for humanity. They're not good for reproduction. And then people are sticking metal and plastic into their bodies. And now that I think about it, what about people who break their arms or break their legs or hips or whatever, and they have replacements where they have like titanium and stuff like that put in their body? Like technology, some technology is not bad. Like if you can literally replace, a bone with something else to, better your life, like health-wise, give you longevity as far as like, enabling you to walk longer when you're older, I think these are good things. I think when you start putting stuff into your body to make your life easier, like you walk into a room and like lights turn on because you have a chip like in your arm or in your hand or whatever, and so it knows exactly where you are in the house. It'll change the temperature when you walk in to exactly what you want it to do, when we already have enough technology where you can do that from your phone now. or even you can just go to the thermostat and take 2 seconds to set it to what you want before you go to I don't know. I digress. I kind of feel like technology is starting to just fill voids in space, within our brains to try to move us into becoming something that's not human anymore. And I feel like if you're doing that with technology, I think eventually if you start becoming one with technology, where does humanity fit in all that? Where does, our place in the universe fit in all that? I mean, I really don't know. We can get pretty deep on this. I find religious superstitions in their reaching to believe in science and in technology is of satanic origins. I do find it interesting that people think that this has anything to do with satanic ritualism or belief in anything that is not of God, or receiving this supposed mark, which people are just kind of reaching for that. And this is where I kind of struggle with religious text, because it's so easily able to manipulate and to utilize it to change people's thought process, to change people's minds on things. And I think it's really interesting that they're using this as, chips in your brain, chips under your skin. Oh, that's the mark of the beast. It's like, but is it though? Weren't these texts written, I don't know, thousands of years ago? Were they written about a man who, by people, 20, 40, 60 years after Jesus Christ died? I mean, there's a lot of questions that I have about religious texts, and if or even this Jesus character even existed at all, and maybe it was just a really wonderful, beautiful, poetic story that people told to help people just be better people overall. Honestly, we don't know, and maybe we'll never know. Who knows? It seems like technology progresses our intelligence seems to diminish where you would think that it would increase. And I think this really happened sometime during the time, I want to say mid to late 2000s, where, the big internet boom, websites, www.coms, all the social media apps began to flourish and to grow. And even like Twitter. I remember when Twitter first came out, and it was just basically a way to update you to what you're doing. And so it was just kind of like a way kind of different from, I think at that time we were doing MySpace for updates and stuff like that. But you could connect your Twitter and you could basically say, at James Rhymes is having pizza at Domino's, and you would just kind of update people what you're doing throughout the day. Now it's kind of become a completely different beast on its own. Now, not only are people trying to have big, deep, broad conversations with 120 characters, but people are now, battling each other back and forth on all sides of the aisle, trying to kind of bully people into thinking the way that they think. And I kind of hope that it kind of turns into something else. Maybe Elon Musk, once he gets to the point where he purchases Twitter, maybe it will become something different, and we can all rest easy and not worry so much about trying to push our ideologies on each other, and maybe have a different space for discussing important matters. Because I feel like Twitter, although it's kind of being used as a public space, a public forum, for individuals, I kind of feel like it's difficult to give a full thought in 120 characters is just my thoughts. And Facebook is just as toxic, unfortunately, even though you have many, many characters that you can use. And this is where I think it's important for people to sit down and talk and have long form discussions. I often think about what else we can do to better the podcast. And I think at some point in time, we'll probably, once we get another microphone and, better our technology here at the podcast, maybe we'll have a fourth person who is maybe left of center, maybe more of a Democrat, and maybe have different thoughts and ideologies, and maybe somebody we can actually sit down and have decent conversations with, and we can maybe come to an understanding and find our common ground. So would you spend money? Like, would you spend $400 to get basically a debit card chip underneath the skin on your hand just so you can open your car? For me, absolutely not. Not because of not because of religious beliefs, not because of, modifying your body. Like, it's your body, do whatever you want. As for me, I just don't feel the need to do it. I don't feel like it's important. I don't think it's an expression of my body that I need to make. Adding chips or electrodes or wires and stuff into my brain or into my body. Because I think we at some point will start losing our humanity. And I think as a species, we need to think about how to continue to perpetuate the species, especially now that we're in what some may call a population downturn, and maybe even turn into a crisis when we don't have enough people to work jobs because we just aren't birthing more people because of our technology advancement, because of phthalates within, that we're consuming into our bodies each and every month, because of pesticides and insecticides, because of pollutants in the air, because of air quality. So should we sacrifice human experimentation in the name of technological advancement? I would say it would kind of depend, but I think for the most part, I don't think we should be experimenting on each other. I think, I feel like we've advanced to the point where we're living longer lives, and I think we're, more prosperous than we've ever been in the last 50 years. Even though we're kind of struggling to kind of figure out how, what does a family look like? What does, income look like as far as like a family is concerned? There's a lot of questions out there that are just not being answered, and there's a lot of issues that are going on where people aren't making enough money, and they have to have both of the adults in the relationship, like both working in order to make ends meet. And I think there's something to say that we should probably go back to some of those things where maybe one of the parents may, or even both of the parents work from home, or maybe one of the parents don't work at all and they just focus on raising and rearing and teaching their children to be good human beings and to raise the next generation. I feel like we kind of lost those ideologies as far as like as American people. And I think it could turn into something really, really bad in the future. So we are in a fight for what matters in life, with family, and in the world as a whole. And I kind of wonder if technology will win out in the end to better our lives, or maybe we actually downgrade our technology and we start actually becoming more primitive, and kind of getting back to the roots of, what's most important in life. So, there's a video that's been going around, and I kind of want to show you guys and let you listen to this video, because I think it's really interesting that these kind of things are kind of going around, and I would love to hear your thoughts. So don't forget to leave some comments in the comment section down below. I'd love to start a discussion with you guys. Check this out.
At a top robotics company in Japan this week, 4 robots being developed for military applications killed 29 humans in the lab.
What?
And they did it by shooting what he called metal bullets. I didn't know there was any other kind. The scariest part is that lab workers deactivated 2 of the robots, took apart the 3rd. But the 4th robot began restoring itself and somehow connected to an orbiting satellite to download information about how to rebuild itself even more strongly than before. And this next sentence is a quote. I'm writing this down. I've been doing this for years. This is serious shit, Linda. But you're never going to hear about this in.
And it kind of cuts off, unfortunately.
You know, my wife.
Well, we don't need to work our glutes, so let's go ahead and switch back cameras. So this was a very interesting video that's been kind of going around, and it is kind of old. It's like 4 years old. But this lady, got to kind of get into this lady's like background. She's kind of an interesting person. So Howe's story was suspiciously void of specifics. She didn't identify the source of her information, the name of the factory where the alleged massacre occurred, or the names of any of the scientists who were reportedly killed. And while Howe claimed that reports of this robot uprising were suppressed by the government, one would expect some coverage about the deaths or disappearance of dozens of Japan top scientists to have hit the news, even if the robot aspect of the story was obscured. Yet we found no such reports. It is also odd that this tale served as little more than a footnote in Howe's overall presentation. In fact, this outlandish story seemed to function more as an attention-grabbing anecdote and less as a retelling of a genuine incident. After opening with this alleged robot massacre report, Howe transitioned to the dangers of artificial intelligence, spent most of her time focused on alien encounters, and then concluded by saying that humans may actually be the artificially intelligent creations of an alien race. It is fair to ponder that those first humans were artificial intelligence for those who made us from manipulating genetics like robotic lab scientists are now doing on Earth today. We are humans, actually someone else's androids. Howe also told this story at least one other time as part of an interview with the mysterious Outpost Radio at the Ozark Mountain UFO conference. During that telling, Howe added that her marine source would only communicate with her in short texts or 30-second phone calls because his phone had been tapped, and that she made no claims of having handwritten notes of those conversations. Howe also maintained that her source didn't actually witness any such robot massacre, but that he was relaying information he had reportedly come across during his contract work. Okay. So what's really interesting about this is that there is some danger when it comes to artificial intelligence, especially if it gets to the point where it can become smarter and it can replicate itself and it has the ability to do these things and has the materials to do these things. And I can kind of see where we're going to that. However, I don't exactly know. Of course, I mean, I'm taking this this thing as a grain of salt. I don't know if it was exactly true. However, it's going to be really interesting to see where we get to the point of when we get from, a cockroach intelligence to like a mouse consciousness, and then, perfecting that, and then going from a mouse consciousness into a rabbit consciousness, and rabbit consciousness into a cat consciousness, into a dog consciousness, and eventually into like a chimp consciousness. And so there's kind of like levels I feel like you got to go through before you get to the next point. And I think it's safe to say that we aren't going to have artificial intelligence the way that we would think artificial intelligence is. When you think of like stuff like, I don't know, iRobot, Ex Machina, and many other, not Cyberpunk. What's the other movie I'm thinking of? Blade Runner. Like there's all these different movies where they have androids in them and they have artificial intelligence, like conscious beings in these, fantasy and sci-fi worlds. I think we're still a long way from that. Will that be within my lifetime? I don't know, probably not. But let's say if we don't get hit by an asteroid, the size of Texas, or Jesus doesn't come, and the second coming doesn't happen, and we're able to progress over the next 2, 3, 4, 5,000, 10,000 years. I mean, it's possible that we get to that point, but at the same time, I think about, well, what does artificial intelligence do for us as human beings? Like, how does it progress humanity? How does it continue our existence and help us reach the stars and to actually travel interplanetary? How do we get a base on the moon? How do we get a base on Mars? Like, these are the kinds of things I ask before we even think about trying to create life, that isn't our own. Like, I think it would be more important to this. I don't know. I think it would be more important to establish technologies where we can go into the powder keg that's sitting out, in between Montana and Wyoming, and let's kill that dormant volcano so it doesn't end life on this planet when it blows, which could happen in who knows what time. It might happen in my lifetime. I don't know. Why aren't we looking at those kinds of things? Why aren't we looking at figuring out how to end world hunger? How are we figuring out how people can progress in life and be happy rather than just try to make a buck at the expense of human beings? There's a lot of things I feel like we need to do before we even remotely think of doing artificial intelligence, in my opinion. So Linda Moulton is an American investigative journalist and regional Emmy Award-winning documentary filmmaker, best known for her work as a ufologist, an advocate for a variety of conspiracy theories, including her investigation of cattle mutilations, I can say words, and conclusion that they are performed by extraterrestrials. She is also noted for her speculations that the U.S. government is working with aliens. I honestly don't believe that. I don't think our government is smart enough to cover up things that well. Eventually it comes to light, whether it happens, 2 years or 6 years, 8 years, 10, 20 years down the road, eventually this stuff comes out. So I can only take her words with a grain of salt. I can't really say one way or another whether this is true. I'll be honest, this story was just so fantastic, and I felt like it went along with my technological line of thinking and the title of this podcast. So I just we'll throw that in there. It'll be kind of interesting to talk about. Excuse me. However, the implications of having robots with artificial intelligence greater than a lapdog could be scary. I think even saying that it's more less intelligent than a cockroach. I mean, it could turn bad, especially if it becomes to the point where it's aware of itself and it's aware of how, because we as humans, we make a lot of mistakes. And so if you make a perfect intelligence to do something, to exist, like, it would see us as an imperfection in its programming, I would think. And it would either escape and get as far away as it could from human beings, or the scarier part is to attack and to protect itself from human beings. But again, with artificial intelligence where we're at right now, as far as I understand and things that I've read and I've kind of investigated a little bit on, we really don't have anything really greater than what we program with it as far as what it could or could not do. Like, it could choose to do, those lines of code, like whether it's to jump or to somersault or to shake hands or whatever the case may be, build and weld cars. But there's not really anything that's going to be out of the ordinary, and it's only going to be as dangerous as you program it to be. That's kind of where we're at right now. So what we see in the movies is just, it's so vastly far away. I really don't think we're going to see it in our lifetime, except for maybe in these algorithms, which hopefully it doesn't get to the point where we have something like the Terminator happen and we have to worry about it attacking us and depleting all of our funds and shooting all of our missiles. I digress. So what would we do when humanity comes under attack from an artificial intelligent being? If it's built by us, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But if something like this actually happened, it is pretty scary. I'm not going to lie, especially if you got to the point where it escaped, and it's now evading its purpose and becoming something else. And who knows what it's going to become, especially when you think of, let's say, a child. Depending on the circumstances and either the nature or nurture, or maybe it's genetics, predispositions for mental illness or becoming psychotic, or schizophrenic, just very sick in the head, eventually that person could become very dangerous to themselves and other people. And so if something like happens like that in an intelligent, in an artificial intelligence, that could be scary. But again, I'm not seeing that in our lifetime, in my opinion. And then would we consider them to be sentient? Like, if you're putting all the lines of code in there, or it's adding lines of code to itself over time, is that really sentience? I mean, I kind of feel like, sentience, as far as we understand, is, whether, you can think and speak and to, be an individual, to be aware of self. I think, therefore I am kind of a deal. So there's a lot of interesting implications when it comes to that. So what are some positive outcomes? Well, the positive outcome is we're not going to have a Blade Runner. We're not going to have an iRobot. We're not going to have, these kinds of things happening. Hopefully not in our lifetime. And, maybe we'll deal with that, tens of thousands of years down the road if the world hasn't ended already. I actually believe we need to get back on track. Some of our technologies, or backtrack, excuse me. I do believe we need to pull back on some of our technologies, because I feel like when you start replacing jobs, like putting people out of work because technology has advanced so much that you don't need as many people in the warehouse, like welding and, putting together cars, because a lot of it can be automated now. Like, I feel like that's what it means to be human. Like, we are built to work with our hands. We're here to, do what we need to do to get what we need for ourselves and for our posterity. And so part of that, it's kind of encoded in our DNA. Like, at one point we were hunters and gatherers. So to kind of fulfill that need as a species, like, we go out and we work for, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And then we come home, and at the end of the week, we get our paychecks, we get our harvest, and now we can use that to spend and to trade and to do all these wonderful things with. So if we take that away from humanity and we automate, like, basically nobody works at warehouses anymore because it's all been done by robots. Deliveries, we don't have anybody delivering packages anymore because it's all done by drops by drone. Then what kind of jobs are we going to have? Like, what are we going to do? And then how are we going to hold up our economy, which right now it's a consumer-based economy. So if we're not consuming because we're not making any money because all the jobs are taken by robots, like, how do we sustain that? And then what is our purpose at that point? I don't know. Like, I think about, what I should do with my cell phone. Like, honestly, as soon as I get to the point where I don't have to utilize my cell phone for work, which is why I have a smartphone in the first place, I'm going to downgrade to like a very simple flip phone that can talk and text. Like, I'm not going to have something that has all these applications because I don't need them. And honestly, whenever I do install them, all they do is distract me and honestly make me feel more dumb, if I'm being frankly honest. And I want to have the ability to search and to look and to study and to read, like, look up news and articles and stuff like that. I don't want something that's going to make me want to watch it and have my face in front of it, like Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and all these different, tech companies. They want you to be in front of that. They want to keep your attention as long as possible and get you to buy as much as possible. Like, that's the goal of it right now. If you ever watched The Social Dilemma, definitely encourage you to watch it. All that information is in there. So what are your thoughts on switching to solar tiles versus traditional tiles on roofs on homes? I think this is a really interesting concept. And I know it's not been out for very long. I think it's only been out since 2016, 2018, something like that. I think it's not even been around for 10 years, the whole solar thing, but they're getting to the point now where they're getting the solar panels small enough where you can do roof tiles on homes, on businesses. And I think this is a really good idea. However, I do have some caveats and I do have some questions about what we're going to do at the end of life of these different technologies. So solar tiles consist of thin film solar cells that are made up of copper, indium, gallium, selenite. The size of the tiles is 12 by 86 inches and as an approximate weight of 13 pounds per square foot. Cell material is light and flexible and is a good semiconductor. Solar tiles are relatively new and are based on high technology, so they need to be installed by professionals. Installation is a labor-intensive job, so one has to make sure that it's done properly to protect your investment. Each tile is placed individually while wiring each wire inside the structure. Solar tiles can produce up to the power of 50 and 114 watts. Solar tiles can last for 25 to 30 years. So an average household, I think, when I looked it up, was somewhere between 25 and 30 watts per hour. And so it seems like these tiles could reasonably power a home on themselves, assuming that the sun is out and shining, as well as there's no debris or dirt or dust, impeding any of the tiles getting their most efficient intake of that power. So there's a couple of things. I'm kind of skeptical on the longevity of the panels, as well as the batteries that store the energy during inclement weather. So like whether it's cloudy, whether it's raining, whether it's snowing. And of course, when it snows, especially in colder climates, the snow stays on stuff for a while. So I would assume that these panels would need to be heated so that when it does snow, it can melt it away, so that once the sun does come out, it can start receiving power once again. And hopefully they have large enough battery capacity to power the homes for days or even weeks on end when you don't see the sun for a long period of time. And then you also have the issue with the cleaning maintenance. So will this, incur more job opportunities for people so that, we have technicians that go out and not only take care of replacing these panels, but also for cleaning them, like, once or twice a week to keep dust and debris off of it, leaves and such. And what's that cost going to occur? So, so I think like solar is a really good idea. I just am wondering how much it's going to cost in the end. Especially when the government have subsidies to give you money to add these panels to your home. And my question is, well, if they're doing that to add panels to homes, how come they're not doing it on brand new homes and lumping that into a mortgage so people can afford it on their homes, number one. And number two, they don't talk about the upkeep on these panels. They don't talk about the upkeep and ensuring that these things are charging the batteries consistently. And then what the cost is for a technician to come out if something doesn't work. So I'm curious on the additional costs that you have with these things. But I do love the idea. And number one. Number two, what about the tile placement? So if the sun rises in the east and the sets in the west and the faces your home, the front is facing north and the back is facing south, well, you're only going to have panels on the east and west sides, right? So is that going to diminish how much wattage you're going to get on your home? Or is it like one of those things where these panels can pop out kind of transformer like and kind of move to, and follow the sun so that it makes sure that it gets all the power that it can get, and then of course store it, in batteries. And then there's the batteries, you got cobalt, you got lithium, all these very toxic materials. So what is the cost, not only of refurbishing the tiles when they break or when they, run out of life or need to be replaced after the longevity of that technology? How much is it going to cost to replace? How much is it to properly dispose of these hazardous materials, to prevent it from furthering damaging our environment? Or are we just going to be offsetting costs by just shipping these things overseas and hoping all these other countries that aren't as progressed as we are to let them deal with it, which I think is kind of not great. It's not a great look to be like, to pass the buck to other countries to take care of our old technologies. So I think the tiles are a great idea. I really do. I really think that it, as a matter of a fact, is, how we need to figure out the longevity. I think 25 to 30 years is too short. I think they need to last at least 40 to 50 years, kind of the life of, a home, to house a couple of generations. And also with the battery life as well. I don't know how long these batteries are going to last. And eventually they need to be disposed of. So I just need to know what the maintenance cost is, what's the cost to dispose all of these things, both environmentally and cost monetarily. And then what are we going to do with all of that? That's kind of my problem when it comes to, doing solar, like full solar on homes right now. Like we don't know and understand how long, because the technology is too new. And as far as like pushing it to the point where we're just going to, try to, lower our carbon emissions by just throwing these on homes. Well, why aren't we just putting them on brand new homes instead of focusing on putting on old homes? And at the same time, some of these homes, you can't put them on their roofs. Sometimes you have to actually put them on poles and stick them out in the yard. And then again, like, how long are they going to last? Are they going to last this 25 to 30 years? What about batteries? Lithium batteries don't last that long. Something to think about. And this comes down to our final topic of the podcast: planned obsolescence. So planned obsolescence is basically, it's a business practice that businesses use so that they can increase their sales. So planned obsolescence would be like your cell phones. So cell phones, your kind of lease, so to speak, on your cell phone, or your loan on the cell phone is usually, let's say it's like $2,000. Let's say you're going to pay it off over the next 2 years. Well, at the end of those 2 years, for some strange reason, or even after the first year you have your phone, for some strange reason, your phone starts slowing down. For some reason, your screen starts to get, blurry and scraped up. For some reason, your battery goes dead. And how wonderful Apple does it, everything is embedded in there. So you really can't get to it. Like a normal person is not going to open up their phone and be able to do a battery swap. Like they'll have to either, send it to the company or an Apple store, or like some tech guys that actually know what they're doing to do it properly. It's kind of the same thing with cars. Eventually your car's going to start breaking down. Your batteries are going to go bad. Like, honestly, like we bought a used car, and the batteries only last like what, 40, 50,000 miles? Oh, maybe less than that, actually. Like, eventually these things are going to break down, and there's no real incentive for businesses to make batteries last twice as long. There's no incentive to create better brakes so that they last twice as long. There's no incentive for people to make designer clothes and like t-shirts and underwear. Like, have you ever noticed that underwear blows out like after, 3-4 months? You got to buy new ones, or, once a year you got to buy, several packs. You ever thought about that? Well, it's because it's planned obsolescence. Like, we need to keep the economy going. You have to keep consuming. The bad thing is that if you have planned obsolescence, you as the consumer take the brunt of this cost, and you have to buy things more frequently, spend more money, and unfortunately get into more debt. So planned obsolescence is a business strategy in which the process of becoming obsolete, that is, unfashionable, or no longer usable of a product that is planned and built it from its conception by the manufacturer. So even clothing lines, they become obsolete. Like each season, like every 3 months, 3 to 6 months, that clothes will be old and it'll be undesirable because, well, the manufacturers and the salespeople basically create an idea that, well, now that season is gone, summer is gone, now it's time for fall, and this is the new look for the fall, and it's never the same clothes, if you ever notice. And so also people are worried about fear of missing out, as well as keeping up with the Joneses, as they say. So this is done so that in the future, the consumer feels a need to purchase a new product and services that the manufacturer brings out as replacements for the old ones. Nevertheless, this is only one of many known examples. Ask yourself, why of us feel the need to buy new cars every few years or get a new mobile phone every 6 to 9 months? Is this a conscious choice, or have we been programmed to think that we need new and fashionable designs? I told you this is going to be a good podcast. So planned obsolescence has been put into the place to increase sales by releasing a product with only a small margin of changes or improvements, just like cars, computers, and phones. Have you ever wondered why, we have, iPhone 18 coming out right now? Newest iPhone. Let's look it up. Newest iPhone is iPhone 14. My wife and I got new phones 2 years ago. It was the new iPhone 12, I think. And literally, my wife was so smart with our money. She paid our phones off months early. And now we're getting text messages, we're getting emails, we're getting product placements to buy new phones. It's time to turn in your old crappy phone and get a brand new one with better viewing screens, with a better camera. And I think what's interesting is that it's only just above what the previous one was, so that it makes you think that you get a better product. But the thing is that they're keeping these things, holding these things back as technology progresses. Oh, they could seriously get you a microchip with 100 processors on it. They could do it. But the thing is that they want you to keep buying it. So they'll just get you just a point above the next gigahertz processor. Or they'll get you just the next upwards of, faster processing on your RAM. They're not going to just release the max that was created, 4 or 6 months prior and just bring out. If we did that, we would all have, quantum computing coming out at this point for consumer use. But it just doesn't work that way. That's not how the business model works. And it's really sad. So with advertising, the next best thing, giving people a sense of FOMO, fear of missing out, and others peer pressuring people to get the next best or greatest thing, keeping up with the Joneses. Has it been interesting that a lot of times these different sales tactics, they'll give people who are very rich or very influential, whether it's in social media or in sports or in social icons, they'll give people brand new cars or brand new trucks. They'll give them the latest iPhone so that they can do a review, or they can show it off and be oh, hey, look, I got the newest Rolex. It just came out, $40,000. And now it actually, when you swing your arm, it winds itself. Have you ever wondered why that happens? I always did until I got a little older, got a little wiser, became not as naive as I used to be. I'm still working through it. I'm still learning and growing. I am a student of learning. This is part of the reason why I do these podcasts. Number one, obviously, I want something to do and build with my wife, number one. And this has really helped with that, and actually helped grow our relationship and kind of learn and understand each other even more. honestly, since we've done this podcast, our communication has gotten so much better as well. Number 2, it's a great way to exercise your brain. Like I get to read articles, I get to watch videos and kind of think about like, well, what are my thoughts on this? What are my feelings and opinions on this? Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. Let's think about it. It helps my brain because, I've had several concussions in my life. And so sometimes my brain doesn't work as well all the time. And so this is definitely working out that brain muscle and getting me to the point where I can recall stuff better. I can bring up more points better. I can actually communicate much better with other people. So all around it's, and it gives you guys entertainment. So it's like a win-win-win-win-win, as we say. And what's sad about this business tactic though, like if you're buying a brand new smartphone, like every 6 to 8 months, if you're buying a brand new vehicle, every 1 to 2 years, if you're buying a brand new computer every 2 to 3 years, you're buying new monitors, a new TV, a new light bulb, like that's something that's really been interesting with the progression of the incandescent light bulb to its fluorescent counterpart. What about water bottles? Like water bottles just used to be plastic, and you just drank out of it. Now it's like double insulated and it's got like, stuff inside these cavities to help you keep, cold fluids colder and hot fluids hotter for longer periods of time. We got this cool like double sip thing where you can either drink out of the whole thing or you can just sip out of the bottom, which is like a straw. I mean, and sure, it's interesting and it's like, oh my goodness, that's such a cool new technology. But they do it to increase sales and try to give you the next best thing and make you feel like you're getting the next best thing, even though you're not getting not only the next best thing, but that thing's going to break down even faster because they got to keep you consuming. And this is not a conspiracy theory. I don't have to put my aluminum foil hat for this one. Okay, so there was a time in America where we were proud to build and engineer the best and greatest, the strongest, the longest lasting piece of technology. Like we literally made cars like out of steel, not aluminum. And don't get me wrong, aluminum is great and it's lighter and everything. But now we've made these cars and we have made these cars safer, but these cars fall apart much faster now. I think what's really interesting is that, we always encourage people, well, we need to buy American, but if the American counterpart is a worse, it's a lesser technology than its other counterpart, like I would never buy a Ford truck. I would never buy a Ram truck. I'm going to buy a Toyota. I'm not going to buy Chrysler. I'm not going to buy Chevy. I'm going to buy Subaru. Or I'm going to buy Honda. Why? Because these technologies are better. They last longer. They go farther. They go without breaking down for longer periods of time. I had a practically brand new truck. Literally 3 months after I bought it, it was like 40,000 miles on it or something like that. It had an electrical issue that we had to get repaired for almost $1,000. It was a Chevy. It was a Chevy Colorado. So what happened to our American ideals to go from creating technology to last to creating technology to degrade and to disintegrate at higher rates off of the manufacturing line? Like literally, as soon as you buy that car and you drive it off, it's already gone down thousands of dollars. And it just racks up and you just lose money. It's not even an investment anymore. Like it's not like, it's really interesting. There's an article I read and they made a really specific Ram truck. And with this Ram truck, they built it like they did back in the old days, but with the best technology that they could have. So there was very little electrical, very little wires, and the fancy dials and everything like that. It was just built to be a good vehicle and you could work on it from home. And these trucks are astronomically expensive now because you could literally rebuild them and they could keep going. And you could do it from your home if you want to, in your garage. Nowadays, there's so much technology and wires and electricals and, and fuse boxes and all this other crap in cars. Well, I think you need fuses in cars, but I'm not a car person, so I don't really know and understand the technology 100%. As I say, I was a community college dropout. Like I couldn't handle the bullshit that was going on at that time with education, and I really couldn't deal with it. Now, my poor wife, like she's struggling with it. But what's really interesting is that I would rather pay more for something if I know that's going to last longer, than its predecessor or a different like manufacturer or a different different manufacturer. So like, for instance, so this recent purchase of ours, I decided to go ahead and buy a brand new computer pre-built instead of actually building my own, which is something I haven't done. 15 years. I've only built my own. And even with the small issues that I'm having with it, I'm still worried about its longevity, because the components that are inside are not the components that I would choose. Because when I build a desktop, it's going to last me at least 4 to 6 years, like period. It's going to last me 4 to 6 years because I'm only going to buy the parts that I know are going to last. I'm not going to get AMD. I'm going to get MSI, or excuse me, I'm going to get Intel, I'm not going to get Thermaltake. I'm going to get Corsair. So what happened? I would rather buy American when we get to the point when planned obsolescence becomes an afterthought of building better and greater things overall. What's really interesting, there's a story about someone who had a toaster that was passed down. Third generation had this little toaster. Excuse me. And what's interesting about this little toaster is that it had been passed down to 3 generations. So it was almost 60 years old. And the only reason that they had to throw it out, and take it to the dump, was because they couldn't buy the parts for it anymore, because nobody made the old parts, because, there wasn't a repair person that you can repair it anymore, because, why would you repair, with a couple of dollar part when you can go buy a brand new toaster for 20 or 30 bucks. And then when you're done with it and it's broken and it doesn't work anymore, you just throw it away. I really think we need to get out of that mentality. I think we need to go back to the basics. I really think that we need to get to the point where we build cars, we build parts that are built to last. Like, we build parts and microprocessors, memory sticks, motherboards. Like, we build these things US of F and A, man. And these things, 2, 3 to 5 times longer longevity. Sure, the parts will be a little bit more expensive because, built in the USA. But these are built to last. Like, that would, if I was going to run for president, that would be my tagline. America, built to last. And I would go to these manufacturers and I'd be like, all right, you guys are making spark plugs. You guys are going to make the best spark plugs in the world. Everybody's going to want your manufactured spark plugs. We're not building these spark plugs to disintegrate and to, deteriorate the fastest. No. We want to build spark plugs that you don't have to change for twice the amount of miles that your cars go. We don't have leaks anymore because parts are built to last. You know, we build silicates and stuff that seal properly. We have people who put these vehicles together that have pride in their workmanship. Like just the other day, I saw a short, and this guy was just furious because this line of like F-150s or F-250s that came out, like they're not even machining the gearboxes so that they're flush when they go together, and then they're not putting the silicone in properly to seal them, and so they're leaking, you know, weeks after they drive them off of the car lots. Like, wouldn't it be interesting to see America become the powerhouse manufacturing like juggernaut, like neck and neck, even surpassing like Japan and China and Taiwan and all these other countries that are making a lot of these technologies? Why are they making them so cheap? Because of slave labor. Like, why do we think that's okay to send these things overseas to make these little kids, you know, farm for cobalt and lithium with their bare hands? Like, when did our ideals and when did that go out the window? When did that become not a part of who we are as human beings and as Americans? I'd love to hear your comments down the section down below. And from my family to yours, good night. Hello everyone, Jay Rhymes with the Periodic Review. Today's video is sponsored by viewers like you, so thank you. Hopefully we've earned your subscription today, so don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit that damn bell to turn on your notifications so you don't miss a content release. Check out the video links at the end of every video to view our previous content, as well as visit the description section for more links to enjoy. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and from my family to yours, good night.